Hey guys, back again with another video, a review on Dragon Quest V for the DS, and this is actually the first Dragon Quest game I've ever beaten. Dragon Quest VIII, I got like 30 hours into it, and the random encounters just drove me so insane that I stopped playing. I'm planning to go back to it with the 3DS version. Dragon Quest IV I talked about recently. I really couldn't get into that game, mostly because of the gameplay, but the story wasn't grabbing me either. And this game is pretty similar with like the gameplay. There's a few different twists and unique things with it, but the story is what kept me going with this game, and it's why I enjoyed it for the most part. I would say that I like this game. I think it's a good game. I don't think it's a great game. I know a lot of people consider it like the best game in the series and a perfect starting off point, and I guess it is because it is the first Dragon Quest game I've actually been able to get through, but there's a lot of issues I have with the gameplay of this game. But basically, the DS version is a remake of the Super Famicom game. It originally came out on the Super Famicom. And, you know, for how old this game is, and at the time it came out, it was doing a lot of unique things, like things that you hadn't seen in RPGs before. And yeah, I guess we'll get started with the story, which is my favorite part of the game by far. Basically, you start the game as like a child with your father, Pancras, I think his name is, and he's kind of looking for his wife. And the game basically takes place over multiple years where you see your character grow up. From a child to a teen to eventually an adult. You'll get married, you'll have kids, and it's like this great kind of coming-of-age story. Of course, you've also got kind of like a save-the-world type storyline thrown in there, but for me, what I liked is just the character growth and the character development in this game. Characters you'll meet when you're a child, you'll meet them like years later, and there's all these really good moments in the story, like these story beats that I really liked. Unfortunately, I can't really talk about them because it would spoil a lot of like the different different parts of this game. But the story, it can be really emotional at times, but also quite humorous at times. I really liked the writing. You know, the actual story itself is not like amazing, but I gotta say, at the time this came out, this was pretty new. I mean, getting to see your character kind of, you know, grow throughout the game, and honestly, you don't see a lot of RPGs do this even now. At least JRPGs. The only one I can think of, from what I've heard, is Breath of Fire 3, and I actually really want to play that now because of this game, because that game probably has much better gameplay. But yeah, I want to talk about the story more, but unfortunately I just can't, because a lot of my favorite moments would really spoil the game. But I really did enjoy the story like a lot. Like it was really endearing, and I liked the ending a lot as well. Again, I wish I could talk more about it, but I just can't. You really have to experience it for yourself. But yeah, really well done. Okay, the gameplay. We'll talk about the monster recruiting system first, because that's the big thing with this game compared to previous Dragon Quest games. And for a Super Famicom game, it was fairly new. Not too many RPGs were doing this. In fact, I want to say Shin Megami Tensei was probably the only series that was doing this before Dragon Quest V. Now, it's pretty simple. Basically, the monsters, like, you have to be, I think, higher level than them, and they have to be the last monster you defeat, and it's completely random. You'll defeat them, and maybe they'll ask to join you. And this, honestly, I found pretty frustrating, because I wanted a golem. It's apparently one of the strongest monsters in the game, and it took forever. Like, I can't believe how long it took, how many encounters with golems I had to go through before it wanted to join my party. So yeah, that's like this really annoying part of the system, but overall I liked it. I didn't get too into it, like I didn't try to get every monster in the game or anything like that, but it did keep things fairly interesting, honestly. But that and the story is ultimately what kept me going, because the battle system, let's talk about the battle system. I'm not a fan of it. I'm sorry, I'm just not. I think it's just too old school and simplistic for me. There's nothing to it, and it gets really boring really fast. And combine that with the ridiculous encounter rate, where every 5 seconds you're running into a battle, and it's just irritating. I had to put on a podcast while playing through this game. Like, that's how boring I was finding it at times. And it gets really frustrating later when you have dungeons with a bunch of puzzles. Like, there's this minecart dungeon where you had to like pull all these switches to change minecart tracks, and you were running into a battle every 5 seconds, and it was just really frustrating. You can get a spell that reduces the encounters, but I didn't get one until really late. Although I think there's a monster you can recruit early that might have it. I don't know. Like I said, I didn't delve too much into the monster stuff, but I do think the default random encounter rate is way too high. They should have changed it, at least for this DS remake. But overall, I mean, the battle system, characters have different skills, and you'll get your different skills when they level up. Different characters can wear different types of equipment, but that's about it. I mean, there's, honestly, the regular encounters in this game, I just did not find fun. And they were really tedious at times too, especially when you had like 6 enemies on screen at once. You also don't get to see your characters attack, which I've never been a huge fan of. The game's very grindy. I had to grind a bunch to defeat certain boss battles. And admittedly, though, boss battles were probably my favorite part of the game. They're the only times where I actually enjoyed the battle system, because I actually had to think and use some strategy. But the rest of it, you basically just plow through with just random, just keep plowing through battles. But yeah, honestly, I can't say I had much fun playing this game, which is unfortunate. But it really, I think, speaks to the greatness of the story and the character development and the character building, that even with the subpar gameplay, I was still able to get through the game, and I mostly enjoyed it. There's a decent amount of side content. I like the world and visiting all the different towns, and the way the world opens up, and how you have a boat in the beginning and eventually you get an airship. I liked all that. I like that part of old school RPGs, but I don't know, the gameplay just didn't do it for me in this game. There's also a bunch of just little things that bothered me, like how long it takes to get certain abilities. The zoom ability to just basically zoom out of a dungeon whenever you want. I found that you got that way too late. But then again, I mean, maybe there are actually monsters that have all these abilities I would want earlier. But then again, maybe they might be shitty monsters. I don't know. But yeah, some of the dungeons, it was very frustrating to go through this long dungeon with all these battles, get to the boss and die, and then lose half your gold. Because that's really frustrating, because you don't get enough money in this game. You really don't. It's crazy how expensive things are in this game. You'll reach a town, and this is especially true in the second half of the game, where you can only afford one piece of armor and one weapon maybe. So that was really annoying, and that added to this sense where I felt like you had to grind to get through this game. The sense of direction I found was pretty poor. I really struggled to find out where I was supposed to go in this game. A lot of times I had to use a walkthrough a bunch. There was one part where I had to walk on this small patch of grass that barely looks different than the rest of the grass around it, and at this point the whole world was open to you. I don't know. It's I have to start to question if maybe these old RPGs with these very simplistic battle systems just aren't for me. At the time you had stuff like Chrono Trigger, which had this really unique, fun battle system. Mario RPG not that much later with that, the timed hits. Even Earthbound with the rolling counting down meter. And then I just like that game's sense of humor and world and characters way better than this game. But yeah, I don't know. It's maybe it is just me. Maybe I don't know. I really wanted to enjoy the battle system and the gameplay for this game, but I just found it a slog, to be honest. And it really makes me question as to whether I really want to play a lot of the rest of the series. Dragon Quest IX looks pretty good. Dragon Quest VIII I will go back to and finish one day, and the new Dragon Quest actually looks really good. But Dragon Quest VI, Dragon Quest III, 1 and 2, even 7, I don't know. Because I don't know if Dragon Quest gameplay-wise just does it for me, unfortunately. I'm trying to think. I don't know what else to say about the gameplay. There's inventory management too that's really annoying. You have to constantly transfer items between characters. That was annoying too. You can't save in dungeons, which I thought were which was kind of annoying to me. There was a few dungeons I remember where you could save, which was weird to me that they didn't allow. I didn't allow that for every dungeon. But it's strange though, because you have to save at the church, and this one dungeon there's this random priest in the middle of the dungeon. I don't know, that really weird. But yeah, it took me 30 hours to beat the game, so it's well paced, I think, and it's not over long, honestly, Dragon Quest VIII I feel is. Like Dragon Quest 8, like I got like 35 hours into that game, and I felt like that should have been the end. But no, there's like another 50 more hours. I've heard Dragon Quest 7 is also kind of poor in that regard, but yeah. Gameplay, yeah, I'm sorry, not a fan of it. Honestly, I'm surprised I didn't put the game down. I guess I just enjoyed the story that much that it was able to kind of pull me through. And I guess I was able to tolerate it when I was, listening to a podcast or whatever. Visuals, it's using the same engine as the Dragon Quest IV remake. I think it looks pretty good, some nice 2D art. And I like the dual screen setup for these games, for these remakes, because you can see more of like the environments, and this is especially helpful in dungeons where you can see chests that you couldn't ordinarily see. So honestly, I kind of like that. I kind of like how this game works with the dual screens. It's not like an amazing looking game, but I looked at like the Super Famicom version. It definitely looks a lot better than that. There's actually a PS2 remake of this game too, but I didn't like the look of that one so much. I think this game honestly looks better than that. Yeah, overall a good-looking game. Audio-wise, soundtrack is great. Not amazing. I don't know. From what I've heard of Dragon Quest soundtracks, none of them have really blown me away. And honestly, compared to a lot of RPGs on the Super Nintendo, I don't think this is quite up there for me, but a lot of the songs I really did like. Actually, the song that's playing during this sequence here, this like one of the first dungeons in the game, I really like. I think it's really good. But yeah, overall the music is definitely enjoyable. But I can't say it blew me away or anything like that. But yeah, what else? I mean, I guess there's not much else to say. I mean, I'm probably missing some things with the gameplay. I don't know. I know. I guess I just can't get into battle systems this simplistic. Like I think it's just a little too boring for me, especially combined with that brutal encounter rate. Like difficulty-wise too, it's actually a pretty challenging game, which I didn't mind. The normal encounters aren't too bad, but the bosses you really had to think and use some strategy. So that's probably where I enjoyed the game the most. But yeah, Dragon Quest V overall, I enjoyed it. I think for the most part, I mean that the story is really good. It's excellent, but I don't know. I don't think I'm ever going to be a Dragon Quest fan. Unfortunately, I just don't think it's the series for me as far as JRPG series go. But yeah, I'll probably still play some of the games in the series, but I'm definitely not going to be rushing out to play every one. But if it looks appealing to you, like if the gameplay looks good to you and you like these really old school traditional RPG battle systems, then I think there is a lot to like here. Yeah, I am glad I played it, and I'm glad I finished it, though it was definitely a slog. I feel like I enjoyed like the middle of the game the most, gameplay-wise. Like towards the end, it was getting annoying and frustrating. I felt like I had to grind to beat some of the later bosses. In the beginning, it was really slow, and I was having a hard time getting into it. But yeah, that's Dragon Quest V. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't love this game as much as a lot of people do. This is considered like one of the best RPGs ever made. I can't agree with that. Not with this battle system. If the gameplay, it had a different battle system, honestly, if it wasn't Dragon Quest, I might have liked it more, surprisingly enough. That's why Breath of Fire 3, I actually really want to play that game now. But yeah, that's Dragon Quest V. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.